why can't she watch a slideshow of our kids or our honeymoon? I had 600 gigabytes of organized videos. If I died at any point, who's going to my computer and getting this stuff? It's gone forever. We all watch TV now through video streaming services. 125 million households in America with a TV. Over 80% stream. Over 40% of those households only stream now. Why can't there be a streaming app that looks and feels like any other video streaming service, but the content is better than anything out there because it's my family, it's our memories.
Let's discover what people are building in the greater Cleveland community. We are telling the stories of Northeast Ohio's entrepreneurs, builders, and those supporting them. Welcome to the Lay of the Land podcast, where we are exploring what people are building in Cleveland and throughout Northeast Ohio. I am your host, Jeffrey Stern, and today I had the pleasure of speaking with Robert Marks. Robert founded Fidelity Voice and Data back in 1999 with just a $600 investment that he grew to an over $30 million business and one of the largest telecommunications and cloud service competitors throughout the Midwest, with a focus on providing high-speed internet access across various industries. After selling the company in 2015, Robert turned his attention to giving back to his local community through various philanthropic initiatives. In 2020, though, Robert's entrepreneurial spirit led him to set out to solve a deeply personal problem that he felt during the pandemic, centered around the difficulty of sharing personal media with family. Robert raised $1.2 million and founded Projector as a keepsake company to build the personal streaming platform for legacy and memory preservation that he wished had existed. The company now has thousands of subscribers, and Robert is in the process of raising a larger venture round to bring Projector to scale. In our conversation, we unpack Robert's journey as an entrepreneur, transitioning from business to business to consumer, the nuance and interesting opportunities of the keepsake and legacy market, how AI has become technological leverage, which has lowered the barriers to build companies, the lessons he imparts as an educator of entrepreneurship, the importance of corporate culture, his love of Cleveland, and a whole lot more. So please enjoy my conversation with Robert Marks. Lay of the Land is brought to you by Impact Architects and by 90. As we share the stories of entrepreneurs building incredible organizations in Cleveland and throughout Northeast Ohio, Impact Architects has helped hundreds of those leaders, many of whom we have heard from as guests on this very podcast, realize their own visions and build these great organizations. I believe in Impact Architects and the people behind it so much that I have actually joined them personally in their mission to help leaders gain focus, align together, and thrive by doing what they love. If you too are trying to build great, Impact Architects is offering to sit down with you for a free consultation or provide a free trial through 90, the software platform that helps teams build great companies. If you are interested in learning more about partnering with Impact Architects or by leveraging 90 to power your own business, please go to ia.layoftheland.fm. The link will also be in our show notes. I'm always thinking about the best place to start these. And for us, I kind of revisited our first conversation, and in just learning about what you're doing, my family has a bit of a tradition where we've always made montages celebrating periods of time or momentous events in our lives collectively. And I will give you, it was not until we met that I had even given much thought to the market or product opportunity for those preservations of personal memories and just kind of thinking through this whole space. And it's been fun to see what you are building, particularly as I think I could be as much a customer of it as many other founders that I've worked with. So it's fun to actually think through the problem space. But just wanted to thank you for coming on the show today and for sharing a bit of your story, Robert.
Fantastic. Really happy to be here.
I want to start with kind of the entrepreneurial journey. And I know, prior to what you're working on with Projector here, and we'll spend as much time as we need to really unpack that. But I know you had started Fidelity Voice and Data with, just a few $100s and grew it into tens of millions dollar business over the course of your time building it. And so I wanted to understand, where that entrepreneurial inclination comes from and take us through kind of the formative experiences along the way as you built this first company.
Absolutely. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial home, meaning that my father was a serial entrepreneur. Started all kinds of companies, from in the plastics business to large equipment machinery like furnaces, and even in tech. He was always a very tech guy. And we didn't have a lot of rules growing up, and I come from a very large family. There's 6 children, but there was always one rule, which is you were home by 6 o'clock for dinner. And my mom is the sweetest, nicest person in the world, but you never violated that rule because there'd be a wrath on you. And when my dad got home, and he was always in a suit and tie, he'd come home, sit, and he would talk about his business. I made a choice not to talk about my kid's business. I think I was wrong by that, but I really got a good sense from him and what he went through. But ultimately, when I graduated from college, I had no desire to be an entrepreneur. Wanted to work for somebody else. I wanted to do great things, get a paycheck, not worry about payroll taxes, not worry about the checkbook, not worry about sales. Go out there and just do my thing and accumulate wealth that way and grow through the corporate ladder. My entrepreneur journey, sure, I had those influences from my father, but the reality was I was very frustrated working in corporate America. I just didn't feel like the people I worked for had my back. It seemed it was all about their dreams, not my dreams, not my coworkers' dreams, and certainly not the people below me. And I grew to a point where I had hundreds of people reporting to me. I was growing through management pretty well in a very young age, in my 20s and into my early 30s. A lot of responsibility, big budgets. I was wearing a suit and tie because that's what we did back then. This is 30 plus years ago. But I love my coworkers. I love my peer group. I love the people that work for me. And I was focused on their dreams. But I felt that I would get stabbed in the back before my boss would allow them to get in trouble, or if they ever had to defend themselves, or if they were dealing with issues, it was the blame game, not the support game. And that really drove me to be an entrepreneur. I learned a lot about tech and the telecommunications space from my prior career path to Fidelity Voice and Data. And I felt I could do it better, felt I could build a culture. So I seeded that business with a whopping $600. At the time, I have to tell you, I was married and still married to that same person, and she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, which was wonderful. We had a 1.5-year-old and a brand newborn. We had a mortgage and we had 2 car payments, and I didn't have a lot of cash. And it was crazy that she was even open for me to quit a really nice job and do this. But I seeded it with $600, and through organic growth, through good old-fashioned bootstrapping, we just went out there and we built a really great company that we exited in 2015 at $30 million, which is incredible for a $600 seed. And it was a B2B business, and I felt I had a lot of control because I can go out there and make it rain by walking into businesses and providing a solution for them that was better than what they can get from what were my large competitors at the time, which were companies like AT&T, MCI, Sprint, eventually Verizon, and a million other telecommunications companies that were exploding in the late 90s.
Where did you find the confidence to take that entrepreneurial leap, knowing that, it wasn't something that maybe you aspired to be growing up, even having learned a lot about entrepreneurship, maybe from your dad?
Maybe if I would have really thought about just how hard it is and how risky it was, and that the whole family could have been living in a basement eating cat food in 3 years, maybe I wouldn't have done it. It really came out of misery. I kid you not, Jeffrey, and maybe people out there can relate to this. We don't think of ever turning our cell phones off, but 30-something years ago, you did at times turn your cell phone off, but you had to replace your batteries. Literally at 4:59 p.m., I would leave the office, turn my cell phone off. It could be 20 degrees and snowing. I'd blast the radio, open up all 4 windows, and degress from the stress I was dealing with, of the misery of working in corporate America. And I think it was that misery that really motivated me to do it. And we had an incredibly good idea. At least we thought it was a good idea. And nothing was going to stop us because life can't be that miserable. It would have been either a massive attack of ulcers or heart failure that would have taken me out if I would have stayed in that environment. It was just not a good environment. When you start thinking about, boy, I should just become a history teacher and a basketball coach and life would have been better, it's not good. Although that would be a wonderful life, it was really that. It was the motivation of misery. And I've given many talks and speeches in entrepreneur clubs and even in very large groups. And it really was the misery of what I felt was corporate America. And the way I described it earlier, that people don't have your back, they don't care about your dreams. I had dreams. And I felt the best way to pursue them was leave that job and start my own business.
I guess just on that thread, what did you decide was important to you in the kind of culture to instill within the company that you were building and that, you still value today?
Well, here's what's really cool. When you start your own business and then you start hiring people, you get to set the culture. When I walked out of AT&T, 135,000 employees, $96 billion of revenue. That's a monster today. And that was a monster in the 90s. Now, AT&T wasn't a cell phone company back then. They were a very large telecommunications conglomerate. And some of the largest companies in the world were our customers. I couldn't affect that culture. Not a chance. Now, I could in my office. My office on Valley View, I had about maybe 70, 80 people at that time that reported to me. I absolutely can control the culture there, and I could shield them from the misery. I always remember we had to go to a kickoff meeting down in Columbus where they brought thousands of employees from all over the state. And I was dreading it because my staff, mostly my producers, my salespeople, were all on a row in front of me. And every time a leader spoke, they would look at me with this dirty look like, is that real? Our commissions are changing? Is that real? This is what they think of us? That real? Are they giving us grief? We're out there trying to sell their products. And then I had to take them back to my office and fix the damage that the leadership was causing because of the poor culture that they did. So with my business, it was really many things. And I hope I'm allowed to use one swear word on here, but business is tough. Life is tough. So we're going to have issues with customers. We're going to have issues where equipment's going to fail. Technology is going to fail. We're going to have power outages. We're going to have air conditioning failures. We're going to have bad code in a router or switch that's going to cause pain to thousands of customers who literally want to kill you because they can't make phone calls or can't get on the internet or can't communicate to their other locations through their wide area network. But what we can't have is the person sitting in a cubicle here bringing their problems on Monday morning at 8 a.m. and the 40 other people who work in that area don't want to come to work because of that one person. So I set that culture up that, you know what, we're here for you. I was always good about giving everybody a very specific job description. And I stayed true to it. I didn't get mad at them that they did something wrong that wasn't part of what they even know, should know, or was part of their job description. And my expectations are to get that job done. But when you treat them with respect and you make sure you keep the other people out of the office who don't do that. We had something, I used to do this on an interview. I was always the last interview for somebody. And my last question was, I want to let you know, we have a no asshole rule. And I've had other people take this recently, but I started this in the 90s. We have a no asshole rule. And I explained what that meant, which is I have to come to work too at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. And I don't want to dread coming to the office because I have to be with someone who's going to cause a lot of problems. We're going to have enough problems just with business and cash flow and everything else that can go wrong. And people loved it. Soon as I said those words, they wanted to work for us. And we just treated people great. And while the business could be stressful, we were handling people's critical telecommunications needs. Our clients could only do business if we were performing. We were providing their phone service, their internet service, and again, their data communications. Eventually, we were doing their cloud servers, even before AWS was. So we were really mission critical, and they were losing money. That's a lot of stress. We kept it light, we kept it fun, but we also had expectations that your job description is this and you do this. We gave our employees annual reviews. They got a cost of living increase and they got performance, whether it's bonus or pay increase or both. We always showed a career path. We were always very clear to them twice a year in both January and July. January, I would do a kickoff. Here's how the company's doing and here's our vision for the year. In July, here's how we're doing the first 6 months and here's what we have to do to keep it going. They loved that stuff. They needed to know that their company was doing well and can help them achieve their goals. If I had employees who weren't participating in our retirement benefits plan, I'd get in their face and say, what are you doing? You're going to leave here in 25 years and have nothing to show for it if you're living day to day or living paycheck to paycheck. You've got to start maximizing that 401k and taking advantage of these other benefits that we offer. And they loved that. I think we had 2 people in the history of Fidelity Voice and Data that we had to terminate because they didn't fit that culture, which is absolutely incredible for the amount of full-time equivalents that we had. People loved our culture, and it all came from when I used to be an employee working for somebody else. Yeah. Go on forever, and I don't want to blow the A2. I hope that helped. I hope that gave you a good answer because I love this stuff. And when I teach college courses, I often talk about the corporate culture just in that same way.
Yeah. Well, I have a few follow-ups, but I'm curious with what you could label a successful outcome for Fidelity Voice and Data if, in retrospect, you viewed entrepreneurship as a remedy to that kind of misery that was the motivator at the beginning. Because what's interesting to me is one of the patterns I will say that have emerged from these kinds of conversations is how difficult and challenging, and had founders known what they know about what it entailed to build the business back then, they may not have done it because of all the, the mental tax and burden that it actually takes. But at the same time, there's this compulsory, some people, it's just within, they don't have a choice. They have to build the thing. So I'd just be curious your thoughts on that.
Well, I hope I get this right, but laying it back to my leadership style, there's been a lot of studies on this, that when people aren't happy in their jobs or they're miserable, they don't want to be there, you're going to pay them for 40 hours, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And the studies have showed people who are not happy, people who are not properly motivated, aren't treated well. If you haven't gotten a review, thank you, or a pat on the back in 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you're lucky to get 80% or 4 days of work for the 5 days you're paying them. I'm telling you, with our staff, we were getting 6, 7 days of performance out of 5 days because they were so happy. In fact, at one point, and I don't know how this equates to other businesses or other industries, and again, I'm going back now a decade or more, but at one point, we were driving about $1 million of revenue annually per employee. So, that's crazy. Now, I couldn't sustain that. Probably at some point I got down to about $600,000-$700,000 of revenue per employee because I had to give them more staff. But I'm also managing the checkbook, and if I needed an employee on February 1st, great. We absolutely need an employee. I'll hire him October 1st. That'll save us a lot of cash flow and a lot of issues. So I was getting incredible performance from my people. So corporate culture was a huge part of our success. And of course, we had very good producers who knew how to get revenue. Sales and operations, naturally, it's dog and cats. It's fist versus fist. Salespeople, a lot of times the staff see them as the problem. They misrepresented the sale. They overpromised. They didn't do the paperwork right. They screwed up the engineering of the design of anything else. And I made it very clear to our staff, we all have jobs because of the salespeople. I promise you I'll work with them to cross the T's and dot the I's better. But at the end of the day, none of us have a job. And so we did have that dog and cat, fist and fist sales versus operations. We put the salespeople on a pedestal. And by the way, I had a stroke their ego too. They loved at our annual meetings when I was praising them. And then we had to eventually hire retention people, which to me are salespeople. And we put them on a pedestal. And those people could be tough and cause internal friction in the staff. And we addressed it, we dealt with it, and we gave everybody the right perspective. And we were so good at communicating. And the communication was such a big key to our corporate culture. I hope I got the gist of what you were looking for. And if I did, please hit me again.
No, all good. I guess the way I would follow up to it is from take us through the final chapters of Fidelity Voice and Data, and how you began to manage that process, and then to, plant the foundation for what you would then proceed to work on.
I have a new startup called Projector, and the means to an end there are very different than what Fidelity Voice and Data was. Fidelity Voice and Data is a company I started at 33 years old. It was a company that it was a means to an end for me to support myself, support my family, educate my kids, give us a great life, give us retirement, all those important things. So many business people, I think, and I know this for a fact because I talk to them or I've seen this, their business becomes their baby. It becomes their identity. It's how they're known in the community, at their country club. If they're sitting at a Cavs game, oh, there's so-and-so from that company or whatever, or how that goes. Never was that for me. It wasn't ego. It wasn't my baby. I had no problem letting it go at any point. It was truly a means to an end to support my family. So when opportunities came to have an exit, I didn't look at industry valuations and EBITDA and what multiples are. Hey, you're getting 5.5 times EBITDA. That's the industry standard in this sector. I took out the calculator and I figured out if I sell at this and I have to pay taxes and I have other people I have to take care of. I had 11 primary employees of mine that I called them made people, going old mafia style. They were just made people that I was never going to not take care of. I took care of them and I didn't owe them a penny and I gave them a lot. But at the end of the day, when you took in all that, and maybe we had some equipment leases and maybe we had some vendor payments, what was Robert Marks going to net? And if it netted that, there's my exit. And an opportunity came in 2015 around May to make that happen. And I never thought twice about, letting go of my baby or how will my family survive after that. I knew I would be fine. One of the most important things to me was that my employees all kept their job. And that was something that the purchasing company had initially agreed to. And then there were a couple questions, and I fought for them. And then I actually had some very high-end technical people, engineers. These are people who I actually had to give them work contracts. They would usually sign a 3-year contract. We renew it because they were being recruited by companies all over who probably could pay them more. They were just happy in Cleveland, and they were very happy with us. And then they didn't want to honor some of those contracts. And I fought for them and literally was going to, maybe I was threatening, but I was saying, we're not going to close this $30 million deal unless you take care of this person. And I'm very proud of that. So that's how that happened. And once everything worked out and things were to our satisfaction, it was a means to an end. And it took really good care of my family and put us in a really good situation. My current startup is very different. I'm actually solving a problem that I have. Fidelity Voice and Data was a clear problem in the marketplace. In the 90s, small, medium-sized businesses, let's say from 10 employees to 500 employees, had no reliable, affordable way to connect to the internet. Literally, you'd walk to a law firm in downtown Cleveland that maybe had 30 lawyers and 40 associates, and they had 10 dial-up phone lines to connect to the internet. They were all using hotmail.com emails. Their website was being hosted off-site by some goofy company that they were paying $500 a month for. That was an awful website, as you can imagine the websites were in the 90s. There was no way for them to run business, but for them to get a connection to the internet that was reliable and fast would literally cost as much as their office rent at their high-rise in downtown Cleveland. And I solved that problem. Projector, I had a personal problem. You mentioned earlier about sharing movies and reflection videos and stuff. I was trying to solve a problem that I couldn't believe no one else had solved. So this is more of a passion project, much more than it is a mission to support my family and my children and retirement.
What was that problem that you experienced?
So I don't know if I have any hobbies, but one thing that I'm really good about is my collection of my home movies. From the time my wife and I got married, that's the first video. Our honeymoon was recorded, everything about the kids' lives with all the normal things, some birth and birthdays, celebrations, vacations, sporting events, all that good stuff. I also inherited, when my father passed away, a big box of his stuff. His stuff was in a box. Film, slides, videotapes, CDs, thumb drives, even a hard drive he had there full of stuff. And I took all his stuff, I took all my stuff. It took me years and I organized it. And now there's modern technology. The apps do a lot of it for you. The Apple Photos, Google Photos, Amazon Photos do that stuff. So I had all this stuff. And my frustration was it had all been digitized. There was no more VHS tapes and DVDs because no one has a DVD player. It wasn't in a thumb drive. I mean, we don't watch a ball game. We don't watch the news or a TV show by taking a thumb drive and plugging it into our big screen TV above the fireplace and trying to figure out where that USB port is. But that's how people watch home movies, or they Chromecast, AirPlay. They run a 25-foot HDMI cable from their laptop to there. You would never watch a great TV show or a ball game if that's how you watch it. But that's how you have to watch home movies. Or you have to take out your phone and go, oh, let's find that day that, Dad bought that red, white, and blue van in 1976. Or let's go watch the day our son was born because it's his birthday today and find that photo and put it on Facebook. That's not how you have to watch anything but home movies. There's one technology, Jeffrey, that every single person on the planet, for the most part, has mastered, whether you're 4 years old or 104 years old. And that is the good old remote. It's the one technology my wife is amazing at. She's so good at it. She'll never program the buttons on her car, and she'll never understand most things technology, but she's so good with this. Why can't she take the remote in the same way she wants to watch Bridgerton or Game of Thrones or HGTV or CNN? Why can't she watch a slideshow of our kids or our kids being born or our honeymoon? I had 600 gigabytes of organized videos. They were on my computer. They were backed up on drives. I had 80 gigabytes in my Apple Photos app. And if I died at any point, who's going to my computer, let alone figuring out my passcode to my computer, my passcode to Google Drive, my passcode to Dropbox, and getting this stuff? It's gone forever. I thought, wait a minute, we all watch TV now through video streaming services. 125 million households in America with a TV. And then over 80% stream something, whether it's Netflix, Disney, Max, live TV on YouTube TV, DirecTV Stream, all these things. over 40% of those households only stream now. I cut the cord, of cable in our house in 2016. So we stream everything. Why can't there be a streaming app that looks and feels and operates like any other video streaming service like Netflix, but the content is better than anything out there because it's my family, it's our memories. So that was the idea and the genesis of Projector, a build your own video streaming service. Now, that's not easy. It took Disney 4 years and spent $3 billion to launch Disney Plus. Because of what I built with Projector, any family, not just in America, but the 1.7 billion households on the planet that have a TV can now go to my website in about a minute, create an account, about another 2 minutes, upload 2 or 3 videos, maybe their wedding, maybe a birth of the first kid, and maybe one vacation, and they can operate it, and it looks and feels just like Netflix or Disney Plus. They organize it. They can make fun categories. They can decorate it. And I'm telling you, all the same features of Netflix, whether it's the pause and 15-second skip back and forth, or play next, or resume watching. You could put a 2-hour tape of your dad's old VHS tape in there, and if you watch 45 minutes of it and you leave it and you come back a month later, you can resume watch it. So that's what we built. It's a video streaming service. This wasn't possible when TV came into your house over the air. It wasn't possible to have your own cable channel or satellite channel. But the Netflix technology of video streaming services, they pioneered it. They were really the first in 2007 to launch it. Everyone has come on after that. They're all in these streaming wars. I'm not in the streaming wars. I'm just using their technology so that my wife, who literally said to me when she got to our honeymoon, she looked, it was in April of 1996. The first thing she said, because she hadn't seen it in 28 years, is, "You recorded our honeymoon? Didn't even remember. Now my kids have seen it, and Projector's got really cool advanced sharing. My mom in Florida has seen it, and my siblings have seen it, and so many other people have seen it." So that's really the concept. And we launched it, and families all over the world are going crazy. I get testimonials every day. They're crying, they're laughing. They have new family traditions. Your family makes your fun videos. Now their traditions are sitting around at Christmas time and watching these videos. When it's someone's birthday, they watch these videos. Some of the people say, who work from home or homemakers, say when they're home alone, sometimes they'll just put an old movie on or a slideshow and just watch stuff on the big screen TV because they didn't know how to play a slideshow on their TV before. Projector makes it as easy as playing a Netflix movie. So I know I talked a lot about Projector, but I was solving my problem that no one was ever going to see this stuff, and there was going to be no succession. Now it's in the cloud, it's on this streaming app, and these movies will never leave it. And we're going to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this month.
Well, with that, how did you come to understand that this was a problem more pervasive than one that just you yourself was experiencing, and that other folks might appreciate the product that you were building?
First of all, it's personal experience and research. The personal experience was that I'd actually been trying to solve this problem for a very long time. If you ever went to a hotel for the first time in the 90s, and the first time you saw they had that cool interface with the remote where you could do videos on demand, and they have all these interactive things, I thought, wow, if I had that at home, I could put my home movies on it. So me and a friend, it was open source software that ran on a Linux server, and we built the server in my basement. We downloaded that software that hotels were using, the early versions, and some hotels have gotten really good at that stuff. And we actually launched it in my house, and I ran about 3 or 4 HDMI cables, long cables, from my basement to like the family room and one other room. And I created that in my house, and it kind of worked good, but it was clunky and disruptive. And TVs back then just weren't as good as they are today, where you can toggle easily between HDMI ports or source ports. So in fact, that may have even been coax back then, not even HDMI. It was so long ago. So then Apple came out with iTunes. And I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go buy one of those Mac Minis. They're the least expensive Apple computer you could buy. Doesn't even come with a monitor, keyboard, or mouse. I'll put that in the basement. We all remember iTunes. I'll put all my home movies in an iTunes library. And simultaneously, Apple came out with the Apple TV. And I could put an Apple TV in every room and we could watch our home movies. And that actually worked for about 5 years. Of course, every time Apple did a software update, operating system, or iTunes update, it screwed it up, and I had to fix it. A lot of other problems erupted. And of course, Apple abandoned iTunes. Then I thought, okay, YouTube's coming around. When YouTube first came out, you could upload like 100 megabyte file in only 10 minutes. So that didn't help me at all. Well, YouTube started changing and expanding, and I built a YouTube channel. And that was probably the worst thing, because while I love YouTube and I'm on YouTube every day, I do watch podcasts on YouTube. If I want to figure out how to fix something in the house, I'm going to YouTube, or program something, I'm going to YouTube, or use software, I'm going to YouTube. But YouTube is not for your home movies. It's social media. It's liking, it's commenting. It doesn't organize things well the way Netflix does. If Netflix came out on YouTube and didn't launch their own streaming platform, I don't think there'd be Netflix today. And it's the same problem. They copyright restrict. So if my kids are at Disney and there's music in the background, YouTube won't take it. If you don't pay whatever the monthly fee is, I know at one point it was $16 with YouTube. Now my kids are going to watch movies on YouTube, and they're going to get a Viagra commercial. Not acceptable. So YouTube didn't work. I then tried Vimeo. So I can go on forever with all the solutions. But it hit me at the beginning of the pandemic. Netflix. I want my own Netflix. And for me to have my own Netflix would have been about $1 million purchase versus a Mac Mini for $400. And I'm not going to do it. And I have to support that software forever. So I thought, well, I can create it and make it a subscription-based service where anybody for a few bucks a month can have this same service as me. They can upload as much as they want. They could stream as much as they want. Again, we're not Netflix. Netflix wants to know if this household's paying for it, 6 other households can't steal that account and use it. And they did a good job of clamping down, and they should. Projector's different. We don't care if you have 50 households and 10 TVs in every household. Go nuts, because this is not content that we paid for. This is content that's yours to enjoy. So that's the concept. I've never built software before, and I've never been in a consumer product before. So direct to consumer or B2C, a complete different animal, way more difficult than B2B. Again, B2B, I can make it rain. When I started Fidelity, I had a yellow legal pad and a pen, and I wrote down every business and every contact I had, and I called them and I started selling. Today with LinkedIn, I would have sold 10 times as much. LinkedIn's the greatest thing ever, and I would have been significantly more successful. And LinkedIn really drove the last 5 years of Voice and Data's success on the sales side. It was such a powerful tool. Going after a consumer is very difficult. We could probably do an hour podcast just on that. But that part I was naive to. But I also mentioned to you that not only personal experience, which I described in pretty great detail, but the research. I started reaching out to the industry. The industry is huge. There's keepsake businesses. There's people who manage people's photo and video collection and do what I did myself for those families. I'm talking thousands of businesses across the globe. There's monster businesses that do legacy media video transfers. They convert your slides, they convert your photos, they convert your videotapes. I was in Amsterdam and went to one of these places, and it was like being probably what Ford Motor Company looked like when they invented the assembly line. You can't believe how much volume of business they do. And a lot of you may have heard out there companies that advertise like Legacy Box. They're out there who do monster volume of video tape transfers. The keepsake business is insane. We talk to people like Shutterfly, who do $3 billion a year in sales, but they're all printing and photo album books and that kind of stuff. So we thought, we're a keepsake. All these businesses are saying, hey, Robert, someone may spend $5,000 converting 100 videotapes, but then the first question they ask is, how do they watch it? And I have no answer for them. So we've signed those companies up. Not only from my research, those companies now sell and bring our product to market. So while we're really new, we only launched a few months ago, we're already at 1,000 subscribers. It's because of those relationships through my research that turned out to be my sales force.
Oh, that's fascinating. I like the framing of it as a keepsake and kind of the...
Are we a cloud backup? Technically, yeah, but think of us like a photo album book. A lot of people have those nifty little photo frames. I got my mom one, but she never looked at it, and eventually it died at her house. But my mom is really good with a TV remote, and she streams everything. She has a Roku device, projectors on just about every TV streaming device out there, including Roku. And she could watch this stuff. And I think she's watching the home movies now more than she's watching regular TV. But it's not just for older people. Our generation's watching it. Young kids, they go crazy watching themselves. And some families tell me, you don't watch it every day. We're not watching it every month. But having it available to us, particularly when friends and family are over or the holidays, is just a game changer. And we're not charging hundreds of dollars a year. We're charging pennies a day.
Right. Yeah. You're in the legacy business.
We're in the legacy business. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Relative to what you could call, the modest and humble beginnings of $600 to jumpstart Fidelity Voice and Data. With Projector, you've taken a different approach. You've raised outside capital. You've raised over $1 million thus far. You're closing on a larger round coming up. What is the vision that you've painted for directionally where this business can go and at a scale that you would like to achieve?
So I believe with what I described earlier, that these keepsake businesses are selling for us and bringing them to their clients. It's very clear that I think we'll do about 10,000 subscribers now in 2025, just through that channel, which is a nice amount of business. But again, it's a small ticket item consumer product. We eventually have to go direct to consumer. And we've played a lot with this. I've actually invested over $100,000 into learning that SEO and driving traffic and the right target, and I could successfully do it. The issue is, if Robert Marks found this product, he would have invested the 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 hours to upload 600 videos and organized it and made it really cool and installed on the TVs. But the average consumer doesn't have that time or that desire, but boy, would they love to have it. So what didn't exist when I thought of the idea a few years ago is AI technology and videos and photos. It is unbelievable, the advancements just in the last 24 months. And I don't have to recreate the wheels. Other companies, I've been out to San Francisco twice now. I've met them. We found our partners. Other companies have figured out how someone can upload, whether it's grabbing 60, 15-second clips from your kid's soccer game, or taking, if your children are a little older, if they're in their mid-late 20s and you have a 2-hour videotape of them, it could take that, it could find it on your computer, it could analyze it, it could figure out the faces, the event, object recognition, and it will build your projector for you. So our vision with this current round is to implement the current AI that's already been created. So when you sign up with us, which takes all about 25 seconds, you're going to push a magic AI button and you're going to give us access to your hard drive, your cloud drives, your social media. We'll find all your media and we'll build it for you. And boom, you go to your smart TV, you launch the Projector app, you sign on like you did with Netflix or any other one time, and it's done for you. So that's what we're doing now. We're raising money to build that AI. Once that AI is built, which we think will take somewhere between 9 months to build after we raise the money and about 3 months of testing, then we launch our direct-to-consumer. My goal there is 10,000 subscribers a month over time. So we're trying to build something pretty big here. We have a lot of families out there, 150 million plus households we want to attack.
What are you most excited about looking forward? You mentioned already in some of the personal anecdotes, the stories, the feedback. What I would imagine that it's pretty special customer feedback, relative to a lot of businesses that you could be in. So I'm just curious what that's been like.
No one got excited that I put in an IP hosted phone system into their offices. I mean, maybe they did, they didn't share that. Okay. That's not something you get really excited about. But the feedback I get, and you said it's unbelievable. I mean, I get it from Estonia. I get it from Germany. I get it from Poland. I get it from Israel. I get it from South Africa. I get it all over Canada and the United States. It's so cool. So that is really exciting that this thing actually exists. We've created a mobile app for Projector because so many people have their content in their phone. And we did an Android and iPhone and iOS. And the first time I saw my logo on the phone, I'm like, I did an app. And then I have my app on an Apple TV and an Amazon Fire Stick and a Samsung TV and a Sony TV and a Roku and a Google TV. That is a little excitement. Now the testimonials are incredible. And obviously the fact that we signed up 250 people in November, looks like we may hit that or higher in December. We're already working on our sales promotions. We've signed up over 120 of those keepsake businesses to sell. I think we'll have about 300 maybe by the end of the year who are selling us. These are camera stores in Salt Lake City. These are 10-person offices that manage photos for people in New Jersey. These are large operations in Columbus, Ohio that literally touch 100 customers a month doing old media transfers. It's just excited to see all this happening. What I maybe don't enjoy as much is that financial raising part, because at Fidelity Voice and Data, I remember I decided I was going to expand down to Akron. And I was working with my brother, who's a great salesperson. And we figured out we need 8 customers to be able to break even, to extend our data network to provide a dedicated internet access to the Akron market. And with all our costs that we had with hardware and circuitry. And me and my brother started cold calling and going down there, and we got those 8 customers, but we got them after we committed to Akron. So we had about 50 days before the network went live, and we started getting costs to make that happen. And that's how we funded Akron. And then we funded all of Ohio, and we became huge in Columbus. We even became big in Chicago. That was really cool. Now I got to explain to people why this product is great. And it's so risky. Tech is so risky, and who knows what's going to happen. Can we make it perform right? Can we get people to sign on? Can we have good margin? There's so many ifs or buts. Every time I meet with a venture capital firm, because I'll meet with anybody, and I've probably sat down with 25 of them, they always will say to me, well, what's going to stop big tech from doing this if you succeed?
Sure. Yeah.
That's not what an entrepreneur thinks. So there'd be no more innovation in the planet. I'll work with them. And if they don't do it themselves, I'll sell it to their competitor. Or maybe I'll just go out of business. Who knows? But you can't explain to tell me that I shouldn't pursue this great idea that so many millions of people, I believe, want. I'm already seeing it start on a small scale all over the world, because maybe Netflix or Google will want to do it one day. I thought of this idea almost 4 years ago. We've been trying at it and started building the network almost 3 years ago. Where would we be if I didn't do it? No one would be talking about this idea, build your own video streaming service. No one would have it. And we'd be no closer we were 3-4 years ago. So I just don't buy that argument. Now, if they want to not believe in the idea, if they don't want to believe in us, I get it. But entrepreneurial speaking, if this thing goes up in flames and I lose a lot of good friends and family's money, I'll be sick to my stomach. But we're too relentless to let that happen. Whether it was when we launched Akron 25 years ago, or whether it was making this happen. And the world's so incredible, because when I started Fidelity Voice and Data, I needed an office. I had to build cubicles. I had to spend between computer systems, an exchange server, a phone system, phone lines. I mean, you're talking a 6-figure investment. I already owned my laptop. I already owned my iPhone. I already was paying my Verizon phone service. It's a crazy world. I now have several other co-founders. One's in Tacoma, one's in Cleveland, one's in Chicago. About to bring on another one who's in Palo Alto. He's just with a company. I can't talk about him right now because he's in marketing with another company in Palo Alto that's really crushed it. And he's going to be our CMO. All because of LinkedIn and all because of the online world and Zoom and everything else. It's a much better time. Never been a better time to start a company. I hope that people who are listening to this for entrepreneurial reasons understand that it has never been a better time to start a company.
It is quite exciting how far the bar has fallen that used to prevent people from even getting started. I think it unlocks quite a lot for those who might be inclined to want to build something. They're just, like you said, hasn't really been a better time ever.
It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable. I compare it to what we went through 30 years ago.
You've drawn this kind of parallel comparison a few times between the experience of building Fidelity and the experience now of building Projector. And I think a lot about the differences. I'm curious, what about the first experience in retrospect is something you've carried with you into Projector that you have found to be very useful, very valuable, or important?
Leadership. I tried to be humble. I was not a leader growing up. I probably didn't show any signs of being an actual leader to maybe college. And it wasn't by choice. It just kind of happened. And then eventually through being a part of both corporate America, but also in my community, I'm very involved. I get involved in a lot of organizations, a lot of committees, a lot of things. It's just leadership. Leadership and being relentless will get you through. And you could sprinkle on a little bit of how you treat people, and maybe can you get up and excite people in a story. I went to San Francisco to demo this product in October of 2023. My partner, who's the engineering person who builds the software, is in Chicago. I'm in Cleveland. I fly to San Francisco. Jeffrey, I'm in front of the senior engineer for Google Photos. I'm in front of executives from Adobe, executives from Fujifilm who do $9 billion a year in this industry. I'm in front of 250 tech industry people from the photo and video business at Fort Mason in San Francisco, and they give me 4 minutes to present this company. So everyone who's presenting their companies, everyone got 4 minutes. I think they bring in 30 and they have a contest and they vote. So it's a whole other conference, but they have these new startups to show everything. And everyone is doing one of two things: bringing a laptop and doing a presentation on these two big screens on either side, or plugging their mobile phone, usually an iPhone, and showing their cool app. I decide I'm going to bring a Roku TV streaming device because what I'm doing is so different than what they're trying to do, which is maybe AI enhancement of photos, or they found an easier way to make a photo album book or something, or other types of stuff, mostly AI stuff. And I go out there. Well, 2 days before I'm ready to speak in front of 250 executives from Palo Alto and from Silicon Valley, I don't even have a working Roku app yet. I actually brought our Apple TV device too, thinking maybe I'll do that, but that really wasn't ready. And 2 nights before I'm going to go on is when we got the Roku working. So then I have to go in front of these people and I sit down with the audio video guys at this huge conference hall and I say, I got to plug this Roku in. I need internet access to it and I need to somehow get this onto your big screens. They're looking at me like, dude, that's not what we do. You plug your laptop in, a USB-C cord. That's it. We figured that out. Then we realized the Wi-Fi wasn't going to work well for a video streaming service. Not just that Projector wouldn't stream, Netflix or Max wouldn't stream. So we figured that out by taking my iPhone, making it into a hotspot, finding a window nearby, and that's how we did it. And I got up there and I presented. I told a story. You asked about the differences. I've spoken in front of 2,200 people. I've been an officiant in multiple weddings. It's just experience of talking to people. And once I got up there, and I wasn't even 100% sure the Roku was going to work. For all I knew, I was going to launch the Projector app and it was going to be a blue or black screen. But I went with it. I was ready to talk if it did fail. And I got up there and I got a standing ovation. And it was amazing. They were blown away because everyone in that room wanted that product and they thought it was cool. The other thing that was cool is I'm 58 now, so I was 57 then. Everyone else was up there was a Gen Z or young millennial. And why is this old guy up there? And I came in with a lot of life. And it's just life experiences. And that's where that leadership and everything comes from. I hope that wasn't too much words to tell you that. But I think that's making this. No. And it's also fiscal management. Right now, I ran into someone, he raised $57 million in San Francisco with a venture capital firm. They've got private jets. They're taking everybody in the company, hope they don't realize I'm saying this, to Costa Rica right now. They're all there right now. They're out of their minds. I won't let someone run a McDonald's French fry as an expense reimbursement in our books. None of my partners have ever gotten a penny. We're all sweat equity in. That's how we had to live at Fidelity for a long time. You know, I didn't take a paycheck for the first 2 years and lived on what little savings I had and was really creative and lowering my monthly nut almost in half. And my wife and I just didn't go anywhere or do anything for those 2 years. But that's not how some people live. That's how I'm running Projector. So I raised $1.2 million to build Projector and all these platforms. I'm telling you, if big tech did it, they would have dropped 50 to 100 mil. Even if someone else was starting this, they would look at this as a $5 to $10 million 3-year project. I did it for 1.2, and now I'm looking to raise another 2 million to incorporate AI that they probably would have raised another 50, 100 million for. So I think I bring that kind of relentlessness, the leadership, and maybe some, duct tape and scissors and creativity to make the dollar go a long way.
What does success mean to you?
Well, for personal life, I'm very proud that I've been able to support my family, that we have no debt, that we educated our kids, no debt, and my wife and I don't have to worry about retirement. That's huge success. We're very happy. We've both given back a lot to the community. I feel really good about that. We didn't just come on this planet, consume, and leave. I believe we've absolutely made other people's lives better. We didn't just help one person. We helped 2 or more. I'm not going to go beyond how many more. And what that means to me is I did my part because I went above and beyond what should have been expected of somebody. Don't just come and take the benefits of what other people did, but make other people's lives better. There are other people who are benefiting from things that I have done, whether it's volunteer work, whether it's vision for changing a community, or whether it's large cash donations now. There's people that are benefiting today that will never know I existed, and who cares? So I feel really good about that. That is success. On the Projector side, it's making this a sustainable thing that families can enjoy forever. So whether it has a huge cash out or it just survives and my investors and my partners are taken care of and I never make a penny, I could say that with honesty because it won't change my life pretty much at all if I get a huge cash out. What else do I need? So this will be about making this business sustainable, taking care of the partners, taking care of the investors. They definitely come first for me.
You mentioned the educational part of the work that you do, that you'll teach courses from time to time. I'm curious, if you could give us the spark notes of Professor Marks, what is it that you are espousing as it relates to entrepreneurship?
It's everything I wish I knew when I graduated from college in 1988. That's what I teach them. When they brought me in, I thought it'd be cool, be an adjunct professor. I'm sure my college and high school teachers would be like, that guy's teaching children? That's not cool. He never paid attention, didn't do any homework. But I've grown up teachers, I promise you, and professors. So there's a lot of things I wish I knew. When I worked at Ashland for a couple of years and John Carroll for a couple of years, and they usually would say, okay, great, you could teach this course or this course or this course. Here's the syllabus, here's the text materials, here's everything you know, here's what you'll teach, here's your exams, everything. And I would always look at them and say, that's wonderful, but then you don't need me. And I don't want to be mean here, but you could hire a monkey to teach your material. I want to write the syllabus. Right. I want to provide the text materials, which is I self-write everything. I create the text, I create the assignments, workshops. I do a lot of presenting. I make these kids get in front of people and talk. And I don't just do it with the classroom. I invite people into the room all the time, particularly during big presentations, because that's a superpower. That is not a gift that I had many years ago. But now I can talk in front of a group. And even if I make myself nervous leading up to that, as soon as it starts, I'm not nervous because I've done it a million times. One class I taught was entrepreneurship and family business. So many, I have a lot of history working with family businesses. Second generation, fine. Third generation, really ugly. Usually never gets past that, if it even gets past the second generation. You have the mom and dad who have a business. They have 3 children. When all 3 children enter that business, now that business has to support 4 families. And those 3 children want to live the same lifestyle as dad. But dad doesn't want to just give up his power. He doesn't want to give up his income. So you have to grow. How does succession work? Are you going to come out of college and work for your parents? And now you're 55 years old and your dad's 80 years old and you still have to answer to daddy at 55 years old? Is that what you want? And so Ashton did a great job of assigning kids who are going into the family business into my class. Sometimes I can have 15 kids. Sometimes I can only have 5 kids, but they were all going into the family business. And the consistent thing is at some point they'd call me Professor Marks. And they say, Professor Marks, my dad hates you because you're bringing up issues that we're thinking about now. One of the siblings is going to be in charge. Can't be all 3. There has to be a definitive, someone's going to be the CEO, the heir apparent. How is equity going to pass on? How is succession going to work? And a million things like that. Another class that I did was field experience, really teaching about the ins and outs. So whether it's dealing with employee issues, whether it's dealing with financial issues, a lot of my kids, I kid you not, were accounting majors. I would do a whole week on being able to read a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet, a cash flow statement. Yeah. I taught it like they were 5 years old, and they would all say the same thing. Okay, I'm an accounting major. It's the first time I understand what you're talking about. Thank you for and the importance of understanding product margin and gross margin and all these things. So many factors like that. Now we deal with in this whole social justice world. How are you going to deal with if you own a health club and the rule was you had to wear a collared shirt and tuck it in and no cell phone usage? Well, now people can't survive in business without being on their cell phone. Young people don't buy into the rules of the older generations. The older generations frown on that or a million other rules and stuff like that. There's so many cultural issues. We dive into that. So I created there was 15 issues in my module, all that from financial to interviewing. We actually do a whole week on interviewing and I give them a little trick and I promise them if they follow my trick, they'll get hired. And I think most of the time we have success on that. So it's everything I wish I knew because when I came out of college, I was beyond clueless. So why should they come out clueless at 22-year-olds? Maybe my information isn't valuable, but I think they found it valuable.
I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask, knowing that Projector came from a place of wanting to solve your own problem, how you feel your problem has been addressed in the work that you've created and your own favorite memories to relive through the platform that you have built.
Well, there's no doubt for my family, and we were the first customer. It's work. It's work. My mom now has a Projector account that's incredible because I took all my old dad stuff and made that really for her. And then what's cool for all you out there who are listening, if you're interested, when you log onto a video streaming app, the first screen you get is, okay, do you want to watch dad's profile, mom's profile, all the profiles? Projector screen looks like that as well. The issue is it's not the profile, but whose videos. So when my mom logs on, she sees my picture, she sees her picture, and she sees my brother's picture. And I see about 6 other people's projector. So if I switch from my projector to my mom's projector, Imagine your Netflix screen, just every category changes, every video changes to that person's. That's been wildly successful. We brought these memories to bear. So for my family, it's been successful, but there's a long way to go. Software development never ends. I want it to be so much better. And by the way, some people say you built a great MVP, a minimal viable product. I think it's way beyond that, but I think we're maybe at 20%. I think it could be so much better. And of course, while I'm getting personal satisfaction, and then we have almost 1,000 families across the world who are getting satisfaction, it won't be successful till we probably hit about 100,000. That's really the number where I don't have to worry about this being a sustainable entity. And I also believe there's a strong acquisition target out there. I think that once we have this AI built, because all the other big players are watching us now. I've talked to some pretty impressive people in the C-suite of some multi-billion-dollar businesses that are in some way, shape, or form in streaming and or keepsake. And I think once that AI is done, someone's going to swoop us up. And all I care about is they hopefully they don't ruin the product and they keep it sustainable. But they definitely have a better chance, I think, of keeping it sustainable than Robert Marks from his basement in Sugar Falls, Ohio.
Well, with that, we'll work to bookend it here. You mentioned Chagrin Falls, and so kind of have to talk about the Cleveland element of your story, and as it relates to our closing question, which is for a hidden gem in Cleveland. What is the role of Cleveland in all of this to you?
Well, I mean, Cleveland has always been home. I was born here. My father was born here. My mom wasn't, but she moved at 3 years old. My grandparents eventually all lived here as well. My 5 brothers, so 6 children, 5 of us raised our families in Cleveland. I'm friends with people I was friends with, in preschool and kindergarten until this day, because that's just how the community is. I love Cleveland sports. I love Cleveland traffic. I love Cleveland housing prices. I love it. It's home. And you're part of the environment you grew up in, whether it's your community, your parents, religion, whatever it is. I've always liked it here. I went away to college in Florida thinking I wanted to get away in warm weather. And what I realized is, Cleveland's pretty darn good. So it's been great on that side. Cleveland has been extremely helpful in Projector. I have a lot of people. Most of the money we raised came out of Cleveland for that first round. And now it's starting to change because there's people in San Francisco and New York and Boston who found out about us and they also want to partake. So Cleveland helped seed Projector. For Fidelity Voice and Data, it was all Cleveland. Yeah. It was everything, primarily the customer base. They had over 3,000 businesses between 5 and 10 employees to 500 employees. They were all Cleveland-based or eventually Akron, Columbus, Chicago, but it was all started in Cleveland. We love Cleveland. We're hoping some of our kids, we have 4 children, end up here so we stay in Cleveland. Because once grandchildren start happening, I'm sure my wife will want to be with the grandkids way more than she will for her love of Cleveland. But I've got involved in the ecosystem in Cleveland from many great organizations like Jumpstart and other ones. And of course, you guys with the Ohio Fund and there's other organizations that have been helpful and taken us very seriously. We are a Jumpstart company. We just got awarded into their Trailblazer program. So that'll be great. And they'll start helping prepare us for those next funding rounds and also the go-to-market strategy. And that's all based out of Cleveland. So Cleveland's great. It's home.
It's home. Yeah. What would you say your hidden gems of Cleveland are?
Well, I think people don't realize people are good. The food scene is good. No traffic is good. And I know, it snows and it's cold. Okay, so get in a plane and go somewhere. We still have an airport and you may have to take 2 flights instead of 1, but you can get places. But Cleveland's great. I'm really hoping that we start figuring out this waterfront situation and start taking advantage of it. If you go to Chicago or now, if you even go to Milwaukee, they know how to use their park systems and their lakefront systems and make it desirable. Edgewater is beautiful now compared to what it was 30 years ago. It's great to see all these neighborhoods being developed, whether it's downtown living and Tremont, Ohio City and Hingetown and all that stuff. Lakewood has exploded. When I graduated from college, no one lived downtown and no one who was born on the east side went to the west side unless you went to the airport because by then 40 was open. Now people start downtown and then they eventually move over to Ohio City, Tremont, and eventually they end up in a house in Lakewood. And it's so cool. So that's wonderful. You're seeing more and more entrepreneurship and you're seeing more and more tech come out of Cleveland. And it's wonderful to see. It's just a great place. I don't know why you'd want to be anywhere else. I'd say get the experiences anywhere else. But now I have older friends whose kids are now in their 30s. Mine are in their mid to low 20s. They're having that first baby. And guess what? They're coming back to Cleveland because they've done the Atlanta thing, the San Francisco thing, the LA and the New York thing and the Chicago thing. And now it's time to come home because Cleveland is probably just the best place to raise a family there is. Hard to beat it. And so many levels, including education.
You're quite the Cleveland advocate. I love it.
Well, it's just, I don't talk it every day, but you asked.
No, I know. I love it though. This was a resounding, overwhelming, positive feel for this place.
Well, I hope Projector becomes a Cleveland success story one day too. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Robert, I just want to thank you for taking the time, coming on the podcast, sharing a bit about your story and the work that you're doing, and excited to play around with Projector myself.
Awesome. If anyone wants to try Projector, they can reach me at robert@projectorstream.com. And if you're a Clevelander, I'll give you your first year free to play with it. You'll love it.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey.
That's all for this week. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show. So if you have any feedback, please send over an email to jeffrey@layoftheland.fm or find us on Twitter @podlayoftheland or @sternhefe, JEFE. If you or someone you know would make a good guest for our show, please reach out as well and let us know. And if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes or on your preferred podcast player. Your support goes a long way to help us spread the word and continue to bring the Cleveland founders and builders we love having on the show. We'll be back here next week at the same time to map more of the land. The Lay of the Land podcast was developed in collaboration with the Up Company, LLC. At the time of this recording, unless otherwise indicated, we do not own equity or other financial interests in the company which appear on this show. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of any entity which employs us. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.